Hello， 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken went home with his tail between his legs after an official 3-day visit to China, in which he tried his very best to convince the world of a litany of nonsensical crap that neither he nor anyone else with a brain believes, including spouting the overcapacity myth that Yellen tried to start on her last visit, and trying to tell Beijing that Washington has some kind of right to decide who China can and cannot trade with. This desperation and hypocrisy blatantly on show from US leaders visiting China is a sign of one thing. The hegemony of the US-led West is falling, and it's a joy to watch. Today we'll talk about it. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. Antony Blinken left China this week after a 5-hour meeting with China's Wang Yi and a chat with President Xi Jinping, both of whom poured cold water on his claims that somehow Washington is the one being unfairly treated and that China somehow needs to change. His first stop was right here in Shanghai, where he boasted to US business interests that he would be telling officials in Beijing that American companies here need to be treated on equal footing. On literally the same day that Congress signed a bill demanding Chinese company ByteDance sell TikTok to US interests or risk being banned there. Like I mentioned on Twitter, his demand for equal treatment is absolutely laughable, especially when using just one high-profile example, Apple and Huawei. The US banned Huawei there, demanding their allies around the world do the same thing, and even arrested its CFO, who was held under house arrest for years. Apple, on the other hand, is thriving in China. Its CEO Tim Cook recently visited and was treated like a superstar, and the company opened its second largest store in the world, right here in Shanghai. If Blinken really wanted equal treatment, things would look a lot different. The day Blinken arrived in China, Congress passed another bill which supplies US $8 billion to countering communist China in the region, much of which is earmarked for Taiwan, an island that Blinken reiterated is part of China. Just check out that hypocrisy one more time. Washington has agreed officially since 1979 that Taiwan is part of China. And Blinken reiterated it in person when he met with Wang Yi and China's president on Friday. And he said that the US does not support Taiwan officially and does not support Taiwan independence. While just 2 days earlier, the US Congress passed a bill supplying US $8 billion to Taiwan to quote-unquote counter communist China. This is why no one takes the US seriously, you guys. And it's also why both Wang Yi and Xi Jinping felt the need to tell Blinken again on Friday that Washington needs to stop saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. President Xi told Blinken that China and the US should be true to their words and be resolute in deeds rather than saying one thing and doing another. Notice how he said that in an extremely neutral tone, not directly accusing Washington of doing that. But the message was clear, make no mistake. Blinken knows full well exactly what Xi is referring to. Blinken tried to continue this overcapacity joke that Yellen started on her recent trip here, which claims that China is producing way too many electric vehicles and solar panels for the world to handle, and that it risks swamping overseas markets and putting their competitors out of business. Well, firstly, we all know that's a joke, and I have two examples. Firstly, Chinese tech firm Xiaomi announced the release of their first ever car recently, the SU7, which is basically a high-performance electric sports car that sells for less than US $30,000. And guess what? It sold out for the rest of this year in just 24 hours. Check out this headline from Reuters. Xiaomi's EV buyers face month-long waits for deliveries in sign of robust demand. Now, ask yourself, does that sound like overcapacity to you? No, if anything, it only shows undercapacity. More evidence that this overcapacity trope is a complete myth comes from the high demand in the US for Chinese electric vehicles. But guess what? The US does not allow its citizens the right to buy on the free market. Chinese EVs are banned there. I visited the BYD headquarters in Shenzhen recently and asked you guys to provide your questions that I would ask the company on your behalf. Now, by far the most asked question was from people in North America asking when they can finally buy BYD vehicles there. The answer is simple: when your governments lift their ban on Chinese EVs. Like I've mentioned before, the US knows full well that it cannot compete with China in most of the areas that matter, which is why they're trying to stymie China's progress by making up insane claims like overcapacity and not allowing their citizens the right to buy on any kind of a free market. China has beat the West at its own game, capitalism. But Washington is not giving up the fight. President Xi told Blinken directly that it needs to stop trying to hamper China's right to development and innovation. He said, "Planet Earth is big enough to accommodate the respective development and common prosperity of China and the United States. The Chinese, like the Americans, are dignified, confident, and self-reliant people. They both have the right to pursue a better life. The common interests of the two countries should be valued, and their respective success is an opportunity instead of a threat to each other." But of course, Washington is unable to act like an adult and stop its self-destructive behavior because it's beholden to a population who are over-propagandized, angry, and who make decisions based on pure emotions. On top of that, election season is fast approaching, and each side of the political aisle needs to play up the China threat because that is exactly what they've taught their citizens to believe. You made your bed, now lie in it. Another quick point Blinken tried to push in Beijing was that China shouldn't be trading with Russia because that somehow helps it to attack the Ukraine. Well, that is crap as well. China will continue trading with Russia, just like it continues to trade with everyone. And the majority of the world agrees. 80% of the world's population live in countries that have not agreed with Washington's hideous sanctions on Russia. And they continue to trade with Moscow as they did before. Blinken knows full well that Washington's continued ability to throw its weight around internationally relies heavily on Russia's defeat. And it knows full well that this hideous proxy war is not going well for the US-led West and its servants, who, by the way, are the only ones supporting the economic attack on Russia. The world is changing fast. It is more multipolar now than it has been in a long time, and the US and Western hegemony is coming to an end. That's highlighted extremely clearly by the desperation and hypocrisy on show whenever US leaders like Blinken visit China. And it is amazing to watch. And on that note, that will be it for today, you guys. But as always, I'd love to hear what you think, so do let me know down below. Also, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. See you all next time. Bye-bye.